Think back to gym class for a second. The dodgeball games, running laps, maybe some questionable square dancing. A lot of the time, it probably felt like just a bunch of organized chaos, right? But what if I told you that behind all that seeming madness, there's actually a deliberate, calculated method? Well, today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden blueprint for physical education. So let's get right into it. Is PE just a random collection of activities designed to get kids to burn off some energy? Or is there a grander plan at work, a secret blueprint that's guiding everything you learn from your very first day of kindergarten all the way to graduation? I mean, just imagine for a second how tough this must be for curriculum designers. They have to map out a 13-year plan that logically builds skills year after year after year. They have to make sure there are no gaps where you miss something crucial, but they also have to avoid that feeling we all know of, like, am I really learning how to throw a softball for the 8th year in a row? It's a massive, massive puzzle. So, how do they actually solve this puzzle? Well, it turns out there's a surprisingly mathematical approach. It's kind of like a secret formula that educators use to map out that entire learning journey. Let's break down how it works. It really just boils down to these 3 simple steps. First, you figure out how much actual class time you have in a year, and you compare that to the average time it takes a student to truly master one new skill. Second, you just divide those 2 numbers to see how many new things, or objectives, you can realistically teach in 1 year. And finally, you multiply that number by how many grades are in that school level, say elementary school, to get your grand total. It's a pretty straightforward, data-driven plan.
All right, so theory is one thing, but let's make this feel real. We're going to walk through the exact calculation for a typical elementary school PE program, using the actual numbers from the curriculum guide.
Okay, so step 1. Once you account for things like holidays, school assemblies, all that stuff, the total amount of real instructional time an elementary student gets in PE is about 32.4 hours a year. That's the number we start with. And when you think about it, that's really not a lot of time. Next up, the planners have to estimate how long it takes for a student to really learn a new skill. And we're not talking about just trying it once. We mean truly master it. The average they use for this is about 6.25 hours per skill. This is an absolutely crucial piece of the puzzle. And now we just do the math. You take your total time, that 32.4 hours, and you divide it by the time it takes to master one skill, 6.25 hours. And what does that give you? About 5. So here's the big takeaway. An elementary school student can realistically master about 5 new, distinct skills in gym class each year. That's it, just 5. Now here's where it gets really interesting. You take those 5 skills per year, and you multiply them by the 6 grades in an elementary program, so kindergarten through 5th grade. And there you have it. 30, that's the magic number. The total number of learning objectives for the entire elementary PE curriculum is 30. So that was just for elementary school. But when you take this exact same formula and apply it to middle school and high school, that's when the full blueprint really starts to emerge. And the numbers, well, they reveal a pretty amazing strategy. You know, it's pretty wild to see it all laid out like this. This table is basically the final product of that whole formula. It's the master plan. And what immediately jumps out at you? Look at how the amount of class time, and therefore the number of objectives, just skyrockets in middle school. And even in those last 2 years of secondary school, there's still a huge focus on learning new things. None of this is an accident. It's all by design. This chart just makes that data so incredibly clear, doesn't it? I mean, look at that massive jump from elementary school's 30 objectives all the way up to 45 in middle school. According to this plan, middle school is the peak learning period. It's a deliberate strategy to pour in more class time to teach the most new skills right when students are at a prime age for developing their motor skills. But look, knowing how many skills to teach is really only half the battle. If that formula gives you all the ingredients, this next part is the recipe. Because the other half, which you could argue is even more important, is deciding the order you teach them in. This is about way more than just numbers. It's all about the sequence. And this is the core concept right here, objective sequencing. It sounds fancy, but it's a super simple idea. Think of it like you're building something with Legos. You can't just put the roof on before you've built the walls, right? Well, it's the same thing. It's the art of making sure every single lesson acts as a foundation for whatever comes next. So this really shows the 2 different ways you can do things. On the left, you've got the random approach. It's just a bunch of disconnected units, which leads to boredom, repetition, and frustration. But on the right, you've got the sequenced approach, where every skill is a logical building block. You get a clear progression, and that leads to true mastery. The only real difference is having a thoughtful structure. And here's a perfect real-world example. You can't possibly expect a student to understand something complex like team positioning in softball if they haven't even learned how to track a fly ball in the air yet. And they can't do that if they haven't mastered the most basic fundamental skill of just catching a ball. You see? Each step is absolutely essential for the next one. So why does any of this really matter? What's the bigger picture? Well, this whole methodical approach, this combination of the what from the formula and the when from sequencing, it's not just about gym class. It actually reveals a universal truth about how effective learning happens, period. This question, and this comes directly from the Guide for Educators, is so telling. It forces teachers to stop and ask themselves, am I just teaching a bunch of random stuff, or am I intentionally building something meaningful? It completely shifts your mindset from just filling time to being an architect of learning. And that right there is the ultimate takeaway. The absolute best, most effective learning experiences. It doesn't matter if they happen in a gym, a classroom, or even a corporate boardroom. They are never an accident. They are always, always the result of a deliberate, thoughtful, and structured design. So it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? The next time you come across something that seems simple on the surface, maybe ask yourself, is there a hidden blueprint here? What other parts of our world are so meticulously planned and sequenced, running so smoothly that we never even notice the incredible design that's working right under our noses?